Good morning. I'm here. I'm here to have a chat. Um, I'm going to I'm gonna start this show. Um, I don't have a banner. I'm going to talk about uh some things that have been going on in my life recently, and hopefully people will enjoy that. Um, I know that a lot of my streams are unexpected, and people are expecting them to be bad because they've gotten used to it. So that's a good thing. I'm um, I'm just getting going here. I've been having I guess what I'm gonna call this thoughts that run through my head, and I have lots of them. And having a perhaps I'm not neurotypical. Um, I think maybe that's something I should have always known. Um, my virtual background isn't working well. We've moved my son's computer upstairs, which is great for him. I actually preferred working in the basement because I had a desk and some things I could work with there. Um, so I've been thinking about a whole bunch of stuff, and my life has been pretty didactic, I guess, for the past few months. But I got stuff coming up, and there's so many amazing creators in our community, and I think we've done a good job of promoting each other. And we're not always going to agree with each other, but I'm really generally pleased with what people are up to. Trying having less sunlight hitting my head. Um, so here's the thing: I have I have a lot of challenges living with obesity. Um, and something that's not related to obesity kind of knocked me out for a couple of days here. And I ended up getting a day off. I did say I would come in today. I left work early yesterday because my arm was killing me, and I was really worried that something might be wrong. My wife was worried something might be wrong, so I went to the doctor, and thankfully they were able to tell me that what's happened is not a big deal. So what did happen to me was I had a blood test done. I had an appointment with my urologist last this week on Tuesday. That was in the afternoon. So in the morning, I went and got blood drawn because I need to have my blood tests and markers up to date for getting bariatric surgery. So these are the things I got going on in my life. So I've got bariatric surgery, number one. It's something I'm trying to come up with. My kidney stone, they are going to get rid of it. They're going to do a lithotripsy that doesn't involve an invasive procedure like what I had before. So that's going to be good. And and then I've been thinking about so many other things to do with my advocacy for people that live with obesity. And I think I started tearing into this concept a couple of days ago when I was off. I think maybe that was on Tuesday. I think I worked the last 2 days, but yesterday was a short day, really short, like I don't know, less than 8 hours anyway. I think it might have been seven. I think I worked 7 hours yesterday, so like a half day. And I felt terrible though. And the one good thing that happened was that I was able to confirm that I wasn't getting an infection because when I had the blood drawn, I felt fine. I went home, slept a normal night, but when I woke up the next morning, my arm was really sore, which I've never experienced before. And then I went to the doctor, um, which was fine. They were able to confirm. So, like second day, my arm hurt so much I couldn't even lift my coffee cup up. And I'm happy to say that the pain has subsided substantially. I'm now in pain, but it's not making me nauseous or, I sort of felt sick to my stomach yesterday morning on my way to work. I felt like I had to do everything left-handed. It took forever to do stuff. It was crazy. But I got a call yesterday, so I was able to sign up for getting the lithotripsy. So that'll happen in a couple of weeks. So I'll be off recovering for a couple of days. So you never know. I may end up doing some more streaming while I'm recovering, depending on how much pain I'm in and how difficult it is. And then we were gonna go on a short family trip because there's a holiday around the middle of February. I think they call it Family Day. It has a few different names across the country. I don't know if there's a similar holiday in the US. Anyway, this thing's cutting my head off and making me look weird. I might just get rid of it. It's freaking me out. I'll just do this or blur it. Yeah, that's good. I'll blur it. That's better, right? If I just blur it. Um. So yeah. So here I am. I'm talking into the aether that doesn't exist as usual, and I'm thinking to myself. I wrote an article or a blog post, I think they call it, that'll be coming out for Obesity Canada, and I had to read through it again recently. I think I'm going to get sort of an edited copy of what they're going to post. I'm going to say for anybody that lives with obesity in our community, even if you're not Canadian, I think there's a lot of great resources with Obesity Canada. You can go to their website. I think I'm going to start trying to figure out how to be a better YouTuber and post links and things and maybe figure out, I don't know what that thing kids are doing with the pound key there. I think they call it a hashtag. Which every time they say that, I think about hash browns and I want to go have breakfast, but that's a whole different story. So anyway, here's the thing. There's a lack of men that advocate in the space of people living with obesity. And it's a weird thing to say because in our society in general, we complain about patriarchy, we complain about misogyny, we complain about a lot of things, and they all deserve a complaint and some thought to when men have taken over in the past, and that it's something that I've inherited as a cis white man. I've inherited what people call privilege, and I want to acknowledge that. And I've said this before. I'll say it again. I haven't changed my position on this. I think we should stop considering it to be a privilege to just start neutral. The problem isn't that I have a privilege. The problem is that everyone else isn't starting at that same neutral position. Other people are starting at a negative number. Because I think where I start is at zero. People take me at face value, but I'm given the benefit of the doubt in so many ways. Except for my size. If it weren't for my size, I would not probably have as much empathy as I do for people that are ostracized, people that are put down, people that are taunted, and people that are just treated like absolute garbage, just based on absolutely ridiculous things. And I'm going to say something that someone will probably clip, and it'll sound insane, but I believe I read this. I'm going to look this up and see if it's true, but I believe that when it comes to people who have a lot of Northern European heritage, which is certainly me. What we are is people with darker skin tones that have lost melanin to deal with a lack of exposure to sunlight for a greater part of the year. And I believe, if I understand correctly what I've read, and I'm pretty sure I saw a video on this, but I know I read an article on this. And I believe the whole thing was the concept was that white people are actually just regular people that have lost a certain amount of melanin, and that being a darker skinned person, and I don't want to necessarily say black because I think there's all sorts of shades of melanin containing skin that people have. When you think about that, when you think of, like, if you break it down to that, like, what is a skin color and what is a race, that's a pretty bullshit way to divide people up. I think that people that might be considered Caucasian, people that might be considered white, we come in a variety of shades, if you will. We have different amounts of melanin. And it's the same thing with people who are from the Far East, the same people in the Middle East, people in what you might call a black person, someone who has extremely dark skin. There's a gradient. And I think people have trouble with gradients because a gradient means that you're not, if you'll pardon this terrible pun, black or white. Of course, people aren't gray. I think we're waiting for gray aliens, and maybe we think that by making them gray, we don't have to give them a race. I'm not sure, but people come in many shades. People who are indigenous people, Aboriginal people, Native Canadians. They often refer to themselves as something that some people consider derogatory, but they will call themselves Indians sometimes. We have the Innu and Inuit people in Canada. They all have different shades of skin as well. And but we all came from the same people. We're all humans. The differences in skin tone seem to be inherited genetics based on where the population developed over time. And we have cultural differences, which are mostly about like just what we do. How, like, maybe culture is a lot of things. Culture is like how you eat, it's how you speak, like the language you use, the foods you eat. Perhaps the most important thing about any of that is that it's nothing more complicated than what you've had access to. We now live in a global world where people from all over the world live in the country I live in, which is Canada. I grew up in a very large city called Toronto. I've moved away from there, mostly because I'm just not a big city person. And there's less diversity as I move away, but diversity is slowly moving this way as well. And diversity is a great thing. Like, bringing people from all around the world with these hugely diverse experiences gives us a great wealth of knowledge. It gives us a wealth of cultural experiences. And even though I'm so white, I think ketchup is a spice. I'm glad that other people that don't have the problems I have digesting certain types of spices and peppers and things can enjoy ones from around the world. And I think that's kind of a very common thing that people say. People will say that, other cultures are, they're famous for this type of spice or that type of spice in their cooking. They're famous for whatever, and it's important that we don't mix up what's known to be common in an area and part of a culture, that we don't turn that into a terrible stereotype, because certain things can become really terrible. And then we also have this idea that if one group has a greater privilege than another, it's okay to put them down, um, to drag them, because they're part of something, um, where they're, so, like, for myself, being a white cis male, um, and heterosexual, I'm not maligned for things that other people are. But then I think what ends up happening is people think, okay, well, there's Al, he's these things, so I can give him shit about that. I can give him shit about all sorts of stuff, and it's okay. But if he turned around and did the same thing to me using the same, the what do you call it? The opposite thing. But they're not opposites, they're just different characteristics. But someone can take a look at me, give me shit based on my characteristics and assumptions about who I am, and that's okay. But it's not okay to turn it around the other way. I think most people don't. Like, in our community, we have a great amount of respect for each other, and that doesn't happen often. But it's important to remember that the people, and this isn't, I'm not trying to apologize for people that do shitty things. I'm trying to apologize for people that are just living their lives and got handed the same random chance of being whatever as anyone else. But once the die is cast, that's what's happening. So, having been born to Caucasian parents, I ended up being Caucasian. My heritage is what it is. My skin color is what it is, and my place in life is what it is, and it certainly is at a greater advantage than many others. But I don't like the idea that people get upset with me or anyone else for being what we are. And I've heard some conversations recently. Some of them are upsetting, but they've given me a chance to think. And so I'm gonna talk about obesity in a second, but I'm just gonna ramble on as I usually do. And it looks like somebody's here watching, which is great. They may leave when I keep talking because I may say things that are terrible. But if we don't acknowledge that even people who are in the advantaged position are people and humans with real feelings, we may miss the opportunity to have great allies. And so much as I would appreciate having people who are of average size and smaller than average size in my corner when I'm fighting for healthcare for people that live with obesity, I also need to, be in the corner to help with some water and hold the the tooth protector. What do you call that? The mouth guard. I gotta hold the mouth guard in the water for the people that are fighting for whatever parts of society are causing a it's a malignant situation when people are facing death and attacks that are physical and verbal and emotional. And I this gets said a lot, and it's a super cliche thing, but it is way easier to heal a broken bone than it is to heal the broken whatever. I'm gonna use the word spirit in a way to just convey what I mean by when I say the human spirit. I don't actually believe in ghosts and stuff, and it's a bit of a problem, but the embodiment of the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings of a person inside themselves. And if we fail to acknowledge that everyone has that in them, we may fail to acknowledge that everyone's human. And if I want support in what I fight for, I also need to stand in the corner with anyone else. And there's a hard blurry line to figure out where it is because sometimes the person who I'm supporting in the fight needs to just sit down and rest for a round. And it's something I may want to come out there fighting and swinging myself. Um, and that's not necessarily helpful, but it's also not necessarily wrong that I help echo the defenses and help fortify those defenses by reminding people that humanity and being a human is something that's rooted in who we are. And it can be difficult. It can be very difficult for us to remember the humanity that's in everyone. And sometimes we even need to think about are people that are being total pieces of shit, are they human on the inside somewhere? Is there something in them that's hurt and damaged? And I really hope that there is, and that there's a way to save them, to bring them back from the hate that they spew. And the reason why I have this on my mind this morning is because I was reading something. I probably should delete whatever Twitter has become, but for some reason I'm still hooked up to it. And I think I use it to communicate with people. And so I hold on to it. And I often ignore anything that's being said. It seems rife with hate and misinformation and misunderstandings. And I read a post this morning that it upset me because it ignores reality while trying to extol the virtues of reality. And this isn't my fight, but it is my chance to defend. And it's my chance to speak up for a group that has been in the media a lot, and that is trans people. It's been my great pleasure to meet and associate with a number of wonderful trans people in this community and get to know them and who they are. And I would just like to say this, and I'm going to say this because it's really important to me to point out that there are some real hard genetic and physiological facts about what a human body is, and it varies from person to person. There isn't just one thing. There isn't just a binary thing. And despite all that, what is biological human sex and what we sort of expect in a binary world and the different variations that exist in that, and there really are variations physiologically. There's also what goes on in, and I'm going to come back to this, the human spirit. It's the wrong word for it, but I don't have a better word. But there's something in the way our brains and our bodies work together that makes us feel a certain way. And I was lucky the other day to be driving a bit of a distance and having a chance to just think after listening to a program where some trans people were speaking about how they felt about themselves. And there are people from this community, and I can't remember who, and I'd love to give them credit. But at the same time, giving them anonymity may be good here too, because I think what they said was not universal, not speaking for everyone, but probably a common thing, because it's something that I have felt, and that is they can't feel differently than they do about who they are. And that's just how they are. And not acknowledging that, not admitting that to themselves and to the rest of the world was causing them a great deal of pain and suffering and misery. And we can get caught up in a lot of bullshit. But let's face it, we don't get further along as a society by making some people less than human. It's not going to move us forward. And I have a lot of interest in moving us forward, even though I'm probably more than halfway through my life. People will call me middle-aged. I'm middle-aged, I'm white, I'm a man, I live in North America. I got everything. But I'm also in a body that's so large, I'm not really welcome on Earth. It's apparent most often to me, and this is, I'm switching gears, which I do a lot, not just as a trucker, but as a person. Just the way my brain works, I switch gears. I'm all over the place. I'm a tangent machine. I can talk about that poetically sometime. But here's the thing. Every time I go somewhere and the chairs don't fit me, I'm reminded that this world wasn't built for me. If I'm going into a restaurant with my family and I can't sit down at the table because the space between the table and the chair isn't big enough for me, I'm reminded that this world was built for a different sized person. My kids are small. They've been smaller. They're growing. They keep getting bigger. But, you know, being smaller than average, the average adult doesn't seem to pose much of a problem most of the time. They've fit in since they were babies. When they were really small, we needed like a seat for them or whatever. I'm not talking about like, a newborn infant. I'm talking about, from the age of say 1.5 up, they could always just sort of like scoot in beside us on a bench or sit on a chair or sit in a high chair to keep them from toppling over, all that kind of stuff. And now that they're, pretty much teenagers, they're bigger, they're almost adult size. They're starting to get there. The world, it just so happens that when you build things up to an average size, smaller people will fit. But when you're bigger than average, you start to not fit. It goes from being a little bit snug, a little bit tight, to being a squeeze and an impossibility. And when it's an impossibility to just sit in a chair, you feel left out, and like society just would rather that you didn't show up. And this is something that I think everyone that I've encountered that lives with obesity, um, we have a certain amount of understanding of each other, but we seem to lack a community that talks to each other. And the community that we have is skewed heavily towards people who are women or female or um, not male. Um, and I want to be as inclusive as possible in my language, but when I got into advocacy, I noticed right away that something that was true in social media was also true in the real world. When I got out into it, the people willing to have a conversation are not male. And to me, that means there's something about the way I've been raised that's a little bit different. But it wasn't always the case. I spent a long period of my life when I was not willing to speak up, when I was too busy to speak up, when I had too much going on. And I haven't really gotten less busy, although not running my own business has helped greatly. I'm really, really glad I don't do that anymore as my day-to-day life. But I realized that there's a lot going on, and this is why I wrote this blog post. And I thought about just reading it out, but I think I'm just going to go from memory, because I last read it about a week ago, and I'm just going to go from memory and talk about the main points I want to make. Because the main points I want to make are that oftentimes men are told to just not complain about certain things. Certain things we do, certain things we don't. And one of the things we're told not to complain about is if something's uncomfortable or if we're hurt, especially if it's emotional hurt, especially if it's something to do with our spirit being crushed. That's something we're not allowed to talk about. That's something we're not allowed to feel. And there's some utility in being able to shake off a battle wound, if you will, and move on. But there's also a certain point where you've had so many little wounds that you then eventually collapse. Maybe after the battle's over, maybe you even won, or you think you won, but eventually you end up feeling like you've just been crushed by this gradient. And I kind of came up with this, and you'll have to excuse my overly poetic use of this. And this is going to seem like a tangent, but I was thinking about how to describe to people who are flat earthers, how do I explain to them that there's a gradient of atmosphere, just like there's a gradient of pressure in an ocean, because that's the way gravity works, and they deny gravity. And when you're my size, you can't fucking deny gravity. I'm sorry, you just can't. Gravity has a greater effect on people like myself who have a greater mass. And I exert a greater gravitational influence. It kind of works both ways. And here's the thing. When I was thinking about that, I realized that the pressure of ignoring what's bothering you and what has come over a period of time, that's a gradient of pressure that's been added one layer at a time, one little piece of paper at a time. Piece of paper isn't heavy. You ever tried to pick up a case of paper? It adds up. 5,000 sheets of paper is a fairly significant amount of weight to lift up for the average person. 2 or 3 cases I could probably handle easily enough, carry them around a short distance. But once you get beyond 3, I think you probably want a dolly to boot them around. And I certainly would. And if I had to carry them a great distance, I'd rather have something to perambulate them. I don't want to be carrying that by hand everywhere I go. And then people that don't live with obesity might not realize how many cases of paper I'm carrying with me everywhere I go. All day long, every day, every step I take. Everything that you do when you live in a larger body is encumbered by a great mass. And to add to that, this is the thing that's hard. This is the thing that I wish more men would speak up. And I'm sort of in my blog post, I'm asking people that happen to live in a male body and a large body at the same time to speak up and help advocate for all of us, because our experiences are slightly different. And in my blog post, I talk about how many times I've heard how difficult it is for a woman to be in a larger body. And it's way more difficult, apparently, than it is for a man. And I don't actually fucking know whether that's true or not. I suspect it is. But I've never lived my life as a woman, so I can't really speak to that. What I do know is that women are wonderful people. That I have some amazing women in my life. I've been extremely lucky to have that. Not because they're uncommon, but just because it's just been something that's been a great thing in my life, and something I've appreciated a great deal. And so what I'd like to do is also say that I've had some great men in my life too. And usually it's what they've been able to talk to me about quietly or show me that's changed who I am. But I also think that sometimes what men have to say can be actually really helpful to other men, because understanding that someone who's a woman has had a similar-ish experience doesn't necessarily resonate with you if you're a guy and you've been through something difficult. And these little blows are really something that's hard to talk about, and something I'm not sure if I can talk about out loud without losing control of myself. I was talking with DC the other day, and I still think she's a great creator, and I recommend them highly. I was watching their program, and they were talking about this Claude person, and what they were up to, and basically, um, the things Claude says are hateful and hurtful, and in their attempt to do like a fire up coach right before the second half kind of rah bullshit thing, what they've actually done is put people down, and their particular focus is against women. They are, as far as I know, a cis woman, and DC said they're married to a person who is male. So I'm going to presume they are in a fairly standard heterosexual relationship. So she's coming at it as a person who um, had a child. She says in her presentation that she gained 35 pounds, which isn't easy to handle. It requires some effort to lose. But she presents as someone who's a pretty normal size. And she presents herself on camera. So that's how I read them. I don't, I'm not going to make any comments or judgments about whether they lost 35 pounds or not. I suspect they did. But I don't know. I can't tell. And I don't I don't care whether they did or not, um, because that's not what makes them who they are. Nor is my weight at approximately 335 pounds today. That does not necessarily make me who I am, but it does put some shades on how it presents. And thank you people for showing up. I see that people are in and out, and I realize I'm doing this at probably the wrong time. I'm probably up against somebody. I'm not even paying attention. I'm just screaming at the ether. And I appreciate that anyone's watching this now or in the future. I hope that what I'm about to say hits people the right way. As I grew up in a body that went from semi-average to overweight and obese fairly quickly, and I had a similar experience to someone who's a leader. At Obesity Canada and I have had some similar experiences, and that particular person is also male, also advocates heavily for us, and has been through some stuff like bariatric surgery, raising children, living in a larger body, and trying to get better support in the health system. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep pushing doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, um, and researchers, pharmaceutical researchers, people involved in bariatric surgery, other bariatric therapies. I'm going to keep pushing them to understand who we are as people. And I'm going to tell a story right now that I hope people will understand is one of many situations that has weighed on me heavily. I think I might even tell two or three. I'm going to see how many I can get through without getting upset. When I was in junior high school, I was starting to become bigger than the average kid. And at one point, my classmates and I were all in the swimming pool having a fun swim day. And my classmates turned to me and started trying to lift me up out of the pool. And they were chanting "Beach the Whale." That wasn't an easy thing for me to deal with. I fought back physically and beached a few of them. I don't believe they actually accomplished their goal. I don't remember whether they did or not, but I remember them chanting that. I don't ever forget that. I also, when I was in my early 20s, I used to go to a gym in the old neighborhood I lived in. I had joined there, and I used to ride my bike down. When I moved to a different neighborhood, I was about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes away by bike. So I would ride my bike down there and go work out. And I remember one day, um, I rode down, I was locking my bike up out in front of the gym, and some people in a car drove by and shouted at me a number of comments about my size and about how um, I was a lazy piece of shit and needed to do something about it. And yeah, I mean, I was just, no, this is going to sound really weird, but I was smoking a cigarette, locking up my bike and about to go work out at the gym. It's a bit of I don't know, inconsistency there. But yeah, I was a big guy back then. Here's an interesting fact about me at that time. I weighed 235 pounds at that time. When I was in junior high, I was probably about 200 pounds. My average classmate, I'm assuming, was probably 50 pounds smaller, but I don't know for sure. I was strong back then, um, physically. I got stronger and stronger physically, but I don't think I've gotten stronger mentally at any point during my life. I take medication every day. to deal with depression. And I go to therapy on a regular basis to explain how I'm feeling. And despite the fact that I was born on third base, as they say, having all the advantages that there are in life, it hasn't managed to prevent me from experiencing great difficulties. I'm not sure why. Not sure why. Apparently, I've got everything going for me. But sometimes it's too much. I'm kind of losing my cool here. It's not something you're supposed to do if you're a man. It's something I've been told over and over again I'm not allowed to do, and yet here I am doing it. I'm getting emotional. Because there's a lot of pieces of paper on top of me. A lot of them. I want to light them on fire. I want to burn them all up. I want to push them away. I want to rise up. I want to fight. Sometimes my brain just isn't strong enough. It's everything. Sometimes I just don't have what it takes. And when I hear other people maligning myself and everyone that lives with obesity like myself, it makes me very upset. And I can sometimes lash out in a way that isn't helpful. I could turn into the piece of shit that they've been. I can come out swinging. And it's not necessarily productive. People don't want to see someone who's lost their cool, someone who's emotionally torn apart. They want to see someone who's strong, someone who stands tall, because being tall is important. It's important to be strong. It's important to be resilient. It's important to not show emotion. It's important to not be broken by the weight of millions of sheets of paper on top of you. It's important that you not let the pressure of life get ahead of you. It's important that you be indestructible. It's important that you don't show a reaction when people want to tear you down. And a lot of people want to tear you down. And there are platitudes about it says more about them than it says about you. Sure. Platitudes are platitudes. The fact of the matter is, when someone acts like a piece of shit, maybe they are feeling like a piece of shit themselves. Maybe it lifts them up to push you down. Maybe taking a few of their sheets of paper and throwing them on top of you makes them feel good for a minute. Or I can say, well, at least I don't have to deal with that. They look at Al and say, hey, Al's an okay guy. He's not the shittiest person ever. But he's a big fat loser. And at least I'm not that. I assume that's what they say to themselves when they say something shitty to me. when they try to use my size against me. Yesterday at the doctor's office on the way out, there was a nephrologist there who was talking to me, just saying hi because the doctor that saw me, it was at an office I'd never been to, pointed out to the nephrologist about my single kidney and the issues with that, and about whether or not I should handle the inflammation in my arm a certain way. And I said, no, I'm not taking anti-inflammatories. I'm not allowed to. It's not good for me. My kidney won't allow it. And one of the first things that doctor said is that I should lose some weight, manage my blood pressure. And I said, yeah, I've only lost 70 pounds so far, but I'm working on it. See, that's the thing. I've gone from 405 to 335. That's 70 pounds. But I'm so big it doesn't fucking matter. I'm still too fucking big. I'm still so big that I'm the biggest man in every room I walk into, even at an obesity conference. An obesity conference is pretty much the only place I ever get to meet anyone who's even close. And I'm far too aware of it. And I've recently, I've had that thing where, you've had the year in review from, say, Facebook or something, and it shows pictures of me from a few years ago when I was 405. And I really didn't want any pictures taken of me then, but they were taken anyway. And I can see the improvement in how I look in terms of having a slimmer face. Maybe hard to believe this face is slimmer than it once was. But yeah, I've lost weight. It's easier at 335 than it was at 405. That's for fucking sure. But it still ain't fucking easy. And it's starting to have a bad effect on me. So I'm getting bariatric surgery. Because I can hold the line, but I can't seem to keep losing. I can't seem to lose it on my own. And I know I would be healthier without it. For people that don't know what some of the disadvantages are to the body of living with obesity. And obesity technically is when excess adipose tissue has a huge effect on your life. There's the BMI measurement. That's a bullshit measurement. It's not a good one. Because it's just, a height to mass ratio. That's not helpful. It's just a number. Mine's huge though, in case you're wondering. Just like everything else about me, it's huge. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to get bariatric surgery in about a year. We're always slow at work this time of year. So I'm hoping maybe I can get the surgery in January next year, maybe January 25. I've got all the paperwork here that I had to fill. It's all this here. I've got this paperwork and I'm working on it. There's a lot to do. I had to write out all the medications I'm on. That I haven't done yet. I've done everything else, but I've had to list out my medications a few times recently. Because when I got my kidney stone blasted, they needed a list. I had to read it all out. I'm pretty sure I'm on 9 different prescription medications, and I take Tylenol occasionally to deal with pain. There's a lot going on in my brain when I think about what goes on here. And this is something that I was listening to some of our trans friends talk about it. Oh, hey, Aunt Jer, thank you for coming. I'm going to address that in a second. I'm just going to finish saying what I was saying here. So on the weekend, some of our trans friends were talking about the surgical interventions that are available to them and the difficulty dealing with them. And I've had some very difficult conversations with myself in my own mind And I've had to talk to my friends and family about this. And one of the things that people are worried about is that the surgery will kill me. There's a lot of risks of undergoing a big surgery, and there's a lot of risks of it not working the way it's supposed to. So Aunt has said, my physical therapist said that for every pound of you are overweight is 3 pounds of weight on your knees. So um, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I think what they're suggesting is that the knees are taking a great amount of pressure. If you take a look at the percentage of pressure that is on the surface of your knee, um, if you were to slice yourself, don't do this. But if you were to look at a cross section of your leg and look at like how big the point is, if you cut yourself dead center of the kneecap across horizontally, you could look at that surface area and and look at how many pounds per square inch or whatever pascals there are going down on that surface of your knee where that joint is. And then if you look at that cross section, you'll see there's a little bit of flesh and tendons and nerves and things running through your leg and whatnot. And there's your bone on either side. But if you look at the physiology, you'll see that there is a very small section of connection between your upper and lower leg at your knee. So your kneecap sort of protects the outside and helps hold things together. But if you look at where the actual pressure point is, it's small. And so I suspect that's what they mean by that. They're using a weird way of putting it. And sure, but I get what you're saying. Um, it's been really difficult for me to learn about things to do with how the body works. But if you live with excess adipose tissue, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on your internal organs, which is one of the things that I have an issue with. Also, your liver tends to become fatty, which I'm trying to deal with, making sure that goes down. When you live in a larger body, you really can't do much without being reminded that it's a bit too big. And I'm sorry that I lost my cool a little bit in sharing some of my experiences and how they've affected me. But the fact of the matter is that in addition to the physical difficulty, there's a great amount of mental and emotional anguish that comes with living in a larger body and constantly being reminded that you're doing everything wrong. It's very hard to be constantly told that I'm lazy and stupid. Is it assessed by a blood test and jury? Yeah, blood tests are one of the things that are done to check liver health. Also, CT scans, sometimes MRIs and X-rays will you can get imaging tests done that will show the distribution of tissue in your liver. Um, and so my fatty liver diagnosis is a few years old. The last time it was checked, it wasn't so bad, and I've asked to have it checked again. So I think that will happen, and there will be more checking done when I get the surgery. It's one of the big things they're worried about. Um, is shrinking the size of your liver before you get bariatric surgery. So um, it's not good to have excess adipose tissue in your liver. And when I say that I'm advocating for a better set of circumstances for people living with obesity, I'm not necessarily saying that obese people should remain living with obesity. If you're living with obesity, you shouldn't necessarily continue to do so. But if you're healthy and you're happy and you can live your life enjoying your life and it's not having an adverse effect on you, you're not really living with obesity except by one metric, and that would be like BMI. If your health and your well-being isn't affected, then you're not really living with obesity. You shouldn't be labeled as such. Um, there are some people that would rather, run people through as slots like the way they do with fish to see if they're okay to keep or they need to be thrown back. But we're not fish. We are fish technically, but for the sake of how people are measured, there's a lot more to us. We're far more complex creatures, not so much than fish, but the way we work. There isn't just one healthy way to have a body. And there are advocates for living life in a larger body that will probably focus more on just accepting yourself. And body acceptance is a big topic. I'm not gonna delve into it. What I am gonna say is that just like I would say to anyone about anything, if you're happy and you're enjoying your life, tell everyone else to fuck right off. And I can tell other people to fuck off, but I can't tell my own brain to fuck off. So that's kind of difficult. So, yeah. So Ancher, I believe that doctors will use a couple of different things, and there are also in certain circumstances with liver health, they will do a special kind of biopsy of the liver. It's not a very comfortable thing to have done. I believe what they do is insert a needle type device in your body and collect a sample of your liver for testing to check for things that are going wrong with it, like what its composition is. I guess is the better way to put it. I think that's more often done if they suspect some sort of malignant cancer or tumor or other type of growth. Because liver tumors and things like that can be extremely difficult. Um, there's a lot of things that you can live with differently or less of. Like I live with only one kidney. That works. You can't live with zero livers for any real length of time. Your heart and your lungs might be slightly more important in terms of like how many minutes you can survive without them working, but yeah, your liver and your kidneys and um, your waste handling system. If it stops working, you've got hours, not days. And if your lungs and your heart stop working, you've got minutes, not seconds or minutes. You don't have hours. You don't have tens of minutes. You've got a couple of minutes. That's it. Um, so I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just explaining how important these organs are. When I went into kidney failure, I within a few hours I needed to be at the hospital having surgery, and that's how it went. It was really difficult, really really difficult. There was a it was a bad situation, but yeah, I didn't die right away. I didn't die at all. In fact, my wife realized something was wrong, got me to the hospital, and I survived. And I was in such rough shape. I didn't really know what was going on, but my wife explained it to me after. Oh, my right arm is still feeling pretty fucked up, but it's better than it was. So this morning, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change topics. And answer, how are you doing? And if you're still here, I appreciate it. I've done this stream out of nowhere, and I've gone rambling on for about an hour now. It's just important to me to share with people, everyone, how difficult it is to be in a situation where you're just made to feel unwelcome everywhere you go. And despite the fact that I'm actually a pretty likable, generally speaking. Most people get along with me okay. I've also let myself lose my cool a few times, and recently, and I need to stop doing that. I've had a couple of times where I've been really upset with how I've handled situations, and I need to stop doing that. And I believe that I'm I'm sometimes going into situations with a preconceived notion in my head that things are a certain way. Oh, okay, Andrew, I'm glad to hear you're doing slightly better. I know you were having a rough time. Um, yeah, go AFK. Keep make sure your cat's fed. You your cat and you can't live forever without food. So you got to feed the cat. Especially cats won't let you forget, but dogs won't either. Our dog our dog loves to eat all the time. She's always looking for something to eat. It's like we don't feed her, but we feed her all the time. But I think what it is that she's allergic to. I think we've pretty much isolated that as chicken. So our dog's allergic to chicken. Chicken's a very common added ingredient in all sorts of dog products, canine feeds, if you will. So yeah, it's something we figured out because she had all sorts of strange problems, and it's interesting how many people I've talked to that have a canine animal, and it probably happens to cats too, but their felids are different than canids, as far as I know, in terms of the feed they eat and how they eat. Because I think felids are obligate carnivores. And dogs are a little bit more omnivorous, like canids are in general, but I know they tend towards meat products. But the people that produce animal feeds for domestic pets and stuff seem to get away with putting all sorts of garbage in, and it's not cheap to feed them, but I've known so many animals that need special feeding regimens to not exhibit allergies, I guess. And for me, I've experimented with that, and I've been doing better health wise. But I had a bunch of blood tests done, and I found out that I'm really low on vitamin D. So I was kind of surprised because I spend a lot of time outdoors, working outdoors, and exposing myself to sunlight. So I don't know. I may have to do that Tucker Carlson recommendation where I like sun my scrotum and my taint. I guess is that what you're supposed to do, or is it just your anus? I'm not really sure. It's warmer here in this part of Canada than it was a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know if it's warm enough to sun my anus. But it reminds me, I recorded a special clip for our buddy Titan. Um, yeah, I recorded a special clip for our buddy Titan on an audio program I've got, and I'm gonna try to share that at some point. I'm not sure how to do that. I'll try to make a YouTube video of it. Um, but yes, I want to Titan Uranus is one of our great community members. I think they're trying hard to be the most modded mod of all the mods. And Andrew has definitely got to be in the running somewhere. I don't know. I don't even know how to look up those stats, but I know stuff like that happens. People record that stuff. There's a special type of like YouTube nerdiness where you like look up the stats on who is the most modded mod of all the mods. I'm not sure. PC's a mod everywhere. Anchor is a mod lots of places, including here. I think. Did I make you a mod, Anchor? I think I did. Anyway, I'm I'm sorry that I earlier in this stream I kind of got emotional about some stuff because it bugs me. Um, it does bug me when I have to sit under a lot of pressure. But I know that same kind of pressure is doing doing similar things to a lot of people, and maybe that's a good thing. We all got our shit to deal with, right? So the thing is, this is one of the things that really bothers me about living with obesity. And that is the number of people. There's the people that want to insult me, the people that want to put me down. That's one type of thing. And then there's the people that insult me while they're trying to take my money. That's fucking that's a major piss off. And there's a lot of that going on. There's more to losing weight than calories in, calories out. And there's a huge narrative that it's all about calories in, calories out. And I'm gonna blow a whole bunch of people's minds. Well, I have 4 people watching it, so I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm gonna blow people's minds here. Your body will handle calories differently depending on how your body's chemistry is working. And that isn't something that you can easily regulate on your own. There's a lot more to everything in calories in, calories out. And I'm gonna bring up a Wayback Machine thing. I don't think this show's still on, although I'll probably find out it is. But there was a show on years ago that my wife and I used to watch a lot, called The Biggest Loser, which I guess that's supposed to be a great pun. It kind of is. It was a game show, reality show kind of thing. It was definitely made to be entertaining. It wasn't made to help people's health. Couple of the trainers on there are pretty famous. I think even still today, Jillian Michaels, I think, was the one trainer, and Bob, I forget what Bob's last name is, but Bob and Jillian were the main trainers. A couple of others came and did training with people. They added in teams and stuff. There was a lot of people had difficulties with some of the personalities on there, but with reality television, the important thing to remember is it isn't fucking real. And I was speaking to it's one of my peers in the obesity advocacy sphere who's more knowledgeable than I am and has been around a lot longer than I have about it. And they said that they're quite certain that there's been some studies done on the contestants that were on the show, and a very large number of them, if not all of them, have regained weight and really done terrible things to their metabolic conditioning. What kind of their metabolic state isn't good, and metabolism is I hope people don't think that's a big word, but metabolism is just about how the body processes energy. And hi Reggie, calories can be a part, just a small part of the whole. Yeah, and it's not that it isn't. And in lab conditions, you can control. They do like lots of rodent studies on obesity research. And when they do that, they can control using certain types of feeds. So they will control animal weights by just restricting diet. And I guess I was talking about because Aunt Jer's feeding the cat. Um, that I was talking about how animals are funny about wanting to be fed and stuff because they like that. But it's interesting that people don't understand how metabolism works yet. Make all sorts of claims about how they know people's bodies are, but hormones are huge regulators of metabolism, and what like the thing that they use to help people stay full longer, to help with satiety. That's this new drug, semaglutide, that's used to help regulate diabetes and also to help people that live with obesity. Is known as Ozempic or Wegovy, and there's some other similar drugs like that. Like Ribulsis is an oral tablet version of it, but it all uses semaglutide, and it's something that helps regulate hormones. It takes the place of something, but it also changes stomach emptying. So that's something to consider and be aware of. And yes, Reggie, this is right. What types of foods they're coming from could be more important than calories alone. So that's certainly important, Reggie. That the quality of the food, that we intake, what it's made of, is really important. And it's something that, um, when it comes to like my mindset, that can be one of the biggest issues I have is like not letting myself get into an oh fuck it mindset where getting calories into my body to just feel satiated in one way or another is more important than controlling quality. So yeah, I think it's something we need to always consider is what is it made of, right? Um, the old adage that you are what you eat isn't quite right, but it is true that the energy that you get in your body, what it comes from and how it's processed by the body will affect your metabolism because your metabolism can only deal with what it gets the way it can do it. But if you feed it all the wrong kind of stuff, it won't do well. And the reason why diabetes is such a prevalent problem that goes type 2 diabetes in particular goes hand in hand with living with obesity is because there's a metabolic dysregulation. There's a something going on with the way the body works. And there's what I think is a terrible effort to blame people for having those diseases. Because blaming people doesn't engender healthy change. It just makes people feel shitty. And they don't need to feel shitty because it isn't even their fault. Their body is reacting differently. And I was starting to talk about this the other day, about how we all probably know people that are super skinny who complain about how no matter what they eat, they never put on weight. Um, and then there's people like me, no matter what I eat, I always do put on weight. Doesn't seem to matter what I do or how I do it. I'm able to gain and hold on to excess adipose tissue. It's really easy for me to do. It's a metabolic problem. My metabolism does what it does. I need to work harder than other people to deal with it. It's just the way my body is. It's only a problem that my body's like this when I'm trying to be healthy and avoid having other comorbidities, other diseases, other things that go along with it. And it's pretty fucking important to do that. So I'd like to I'd like to remind people that if there's a person living with obesity in your life, the best way to encourage them is to just accept them and don't tell them about the greatest new diet that's out there. Don't tell them that they're really pretty and they'd be beautiful if they could just lose some weight. Don't tell them that anything about them isn't good enough in the body they're in. Because if I get this bariatric surgery and I survive and I lose the weight and I somehow become a slimmer person, am I going to be a different me? Will Al Trucker be a different person? Will I no longer have empathy for people that live with obesity? Will I no longer have empathy for my fellow humans? Will I no longer have a brain that functions the way my brain functions now? I think it's pretty fucking unlikely. We are the result of everything that has gone before. Now, perhaps if I never become this, maybe I'd have a different outlook. And maybe that's part of the problem is that in order to understand this, you have to live this. Sure, that's true. And just much as when I started talking about our friends who are trans, I can't understand it really, truly, how it feels to be that. But I do understand what it feels like to not really like want to be in the body I'm in. The one I got. I don't know if that makes sense to people. Because it's not the same, but there's quite a few parallels. The number of parallels is actually it's kind of mind blowing to me. The more I hear people in the trans sphere talk about what they're going through, the more I see a similarity. Um, I've seen people. I've seen people in social media in particular, but I've also encountered people in real life that are very upset with me or anyone else advocating for treating people with obesity as human because they believe that treating people with obesity in a shitty way will encourage them to stop living with obesity. And that's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. It just is. And treating trans people in a shitty way is not going to make them feel like they're a different gender than the one they feel like they are, that they understand that they are, that they know that they are. And it's not quite the same thing because I'm not thinking of myself as an average person in a large body. But I do think that I could be a healthy person in a smaller body with less adipose tissue. And I think that a trans person who doesn't feel themselves in the body that they got by physiological standards and who they really feel like they are, there's no problem with that being on a gradient and that they're in the wrong spot for them and they change that. There's nothing wrong with that. They should be allowed to do that. And we should stop society from making them feel shitty about it. And we should stop society from making me or anyone else living with obesity feel shitty about ourselves. Because feeling shitty about myself, I'm going to let everyone in on a little secret. Feeling shitty has not caused me to lose excess adipose tissue. I have never been inspired to lose my excess adipose tissue by being treated like shit. It just has never happened. It's just made me feel shitty. The portrayal of people, and I've seen this, and I think I did a video about it, but I've seen the portrayal of people who like just get mad. They get mad because they've been treated like shit, and then all of a sudden they lose the weight and show everyone what an amazing transition they've had, and then all of a sudden they're a good person that people can accept and be proud of. There's a common post on I think it's Reddit, the one with the funny little alien orange thing. Maybe it's red. I can't remember. Anyway, there's a thing. I'm pretty sure it's Reddit. People will post their before and after photos and get like a ton of likes on that. That's great. I'm proud of them. I like it. I will like those photos. I'm very proud of those people for making those transitions. I'm proud of them for putting in everything they've had to put into it. But I'd also like to click like on the person who, like myself, woke up at 335 pounds this morning and felt like shit, made a cup of coffee, sat down, and decided to rail against what's wrong. And that's what I need people to know. I need people to know that life ain't fucking easy sometimes. And there are some shitty people out there that I've gone out of my way to take the piss out of. And maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should be more accepting of them. Maybe I'm being intolerant of intolerant people. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the people that I treat like shit are just they're not even people. They're just sacks of shit wrapped up in a human costume. I'm talking about people like Kent, people like Ken, people like Greg Locke. Greg Locke, if you ever watch this, I have something that I really want to show you because You are just a sack of crap. And the fact that you would call out people who are neurodivergent, people with autism, as being demon possessed. You know, I've written a song about what a piece of shit you are, but how about that? How about that? Greg, these fists, I'm not threatening you. I'm just saying don't fucking come around here with your bullshit. Scaring children, scaring families, sucking money out of people. They can't afford it. I don't I don't necessarily want to put down all Christians. I think most Christian people are amazing, good people. Living in a country like this, most of the religious people I know are Christian and most of them are amazing, good people. But some of these preachers that are constantly putting people down, they're constantly sucking money out of people. I don't feel bad about I don't feel bad about trashing them because they're not even worth my time. But one of the things about religion that's always bothered me as someone that lives in a body with excess adipose tissue, and I was very upset when somebody posted something online a while back about there was someone who was obviously in religious garb who was in a body of um, a larger size, probably like mine, probably very similar to mine. And this person was obviously dressed in the religious leaders' garments of some sort. I'm not really sure um, which which particular brand of Christianity it is, but based on the clothing style, I thought it might be someone from an Eastern Orthodox Christianity, but I'm not certain. In the Ten Commandments, um, I don't know if it's in the ten, but anyway, it says gluttony is a sin, and I guess in that religion, maybe it is. Which hole does the money come out of? I'm not sure, Andrew. Maybe the glory hole. Is that where the money comes out of? Glory to God. Depends on what you want money to come out of. Anyway, yeah. I'm assuming you're talking about my money sucking comment. Um, it bothers me. It bothers me that people use people's religious beliefs, which are largely cultural and traditional, to take away from them their hard-earned money and take away from them their humanity and take away from them their life here. And constantly telling people that they're broken and wrong and using it as a way to put people down. It's fucking bullshit. And so when they say gluttony is a sin, that presumes that I'm a glutton, that I eat too much and too much of the wrong things, and that I'm not looking after myself, and that I don't care about myself, and that I'm somehow maligning their God by doing that. Hey, Stephanie, welcome. And I guess what I'm getting at in all of this from other post industries to Reggie, that I don't know that Doctor Who reference. I'm way behind on Doctor Who. I haven't seen it since the 60s. I mean, I wasn't watching it in the 60s because I wasn't quite alive, but the last time I watched Doctor Who was, I think, from the 60s. It was on TV in my childhood. Anyway, I should probably catch up on Doctor Who. I understand they've made some changes. Um, yeah, so I think I'm a little distracted from what I'm saying, but when people use religion to treat people like shit, I don't know what that religion's doing. David Tennant. Okay, All right, I'll have to check that out, Reggie. Thank you. I did not know there was. I'll probably just Google like adipose industries and Doctor Who and find the episode somewhere online. I will check that out. There's just so much of society that is designed to make people feel less than to other people, like make people an out group, make people not part of the group. And it seems to me that a lot of what goes on in religious proselytizing, what the fuck is it that they're trying to say? They're trying to say this life is fucking shit anyway, right? That this isn't the real life. That you should give all your money to the preacher that's screaming at you about what a piece of shit you are, so that they can help pave the way for you into this heaven place, and so you don't have to go to hell. And I get upset about that on a regular basis because I think it's a terrible thing to threaten people with. You know the old saying, when people tell me I'm going to hell, don't threaten me with a good time. Anyway, I know I've joked around about this, but I really, if I'm going to hell, I got to make sure that some of these fucking assholes like smarten the fuck up, because like Ken Hovind, you're not going to fucking heaven, and I don't think you fucking know it, and I don't want to fucking see you in hell because you're a piece of shit. I don't want to share the place with you. Is that a silly thing for me to say? Yeah, because I don't fucking believe in either one of those places. But I damn well don't want to run into you again. Big Bad Mama did a thing with him talking about smoking Mary Jane, and I wanted to respond, but I couldn't fucking come up with words. But I was thinking he's going on and on about what a terrible thing it is to smoke marijuana, and I'm like, just like fuck, just replace it with beer and see how many people agree with you. Oh yeah, it's like how many teenagers have tried a glass of beer? Like he's talking about how many people of each and every age group have tried marijuana at least once or smoke it on a semi-regular basis or whatever. It's like, take marijuana out of there, put in beer, and see how many people are still on your fucking side. Because we're just, in our country, it's legal across the country. It's basically like alcohol. It's regulated in a similar way. Like, give me a fucking break. I don't smoke it, have no use for it. I've tried it a long time ago, still don't have any use for it. It's not good for me. It works for other people. Enjoy it. If you enjoy it, fucking enjoy it. Jesus, I don't care. But yeah, Ken has to go on a fucking little rant about it because he's so fucking awesome and he has the key to fucking heaven. Like, what a piece of shit. I don't know. I don't even know why I let him like be part of my thoughts at all. I just like I feel bad for the people that have ever had to encounter him, you know. And I was watching Grayson was on last night. He talked a little bit about that. I think he was doing a pretty cool show talking about all the cool science that's going on. And I really like that concept. I was kind of tired and I had this thing with my arm and whatever, so I didn't see the whole thing. But I really love that concept. Let's talk about the good things that are going on. Let's talk about real science. Let's talk about what's really known. That's kind of what I want to see. I want to see a situation where we treat each other with respect all the time just cuz, you know. That's what I want to see. I want to see a world where we just accept each other, where we respect each other automatically because we're human, and you know, disrespect comes from proving that you don't deserve it, kind of thing. I don't know what else can I fucking say. I'm um I'm not sure if I should keep going on or not. I have one more thing I want to talk about. So I think I'll deal with this, and then and then I'll wrap it up. And I don't know, probably somebody else is doing something better than this anyway. And I've got a little bit of work I got to do. Um, so here it is. There's a major effort coming to change the way people think, and I don't think it's a good one that we have. I've seen a lot of moves towards making people put warning labels on a bunch of shit, and I think it's not necessarily bad. Um, there's a new thing that's come up and made me think about some of the other warning labels. So I'm sure a lot of us have seen a few of the silly videos that people do about flat Earth, and there's like a little warning label saying, "Hey, like the flat Earth isn't real. Like this shouldn't even be discussed, but it is, and this is, the truth is the Earth is a globe, and there's not a whole lot else to think about there." And I love watching it. It's a weird guilty pleasure I have to watch people who misunderstand things talk about stuff. It seems like I think my government's done this. So there's a new thing that there's a warning label on that I noticed this week, and I don't know if it's because the month of February kicked in or if it's something that happened earlier and I just didn't notice it. Was when I get ads online, if the ad is for some weird product that is coming from overseas, that now says this is like a drop shipping thing. It's probably like a low quality piece of shit kind of thing. There's a warning, and I was like, okay, well, we're putting warning labels on this, that, and the other. And there's another thing that's coming. It's like our government, the Canadian government, has put a some sort of a moratorium on certain types of news distribution on the platform. And I don't know what the thing reads as. I should probably look it up. But basically, if two friends of mine in the US share a news article between the two of them, the content is blocked from my view. I can't read it. I can't find out what they're talking about except by reading comments and then say, "Oh, I guess if I go to," so like let's say it's they share something from, I don't know, NBC News. I'll just pick something relatively generic, but all the different, there's the full-time news outlets, but I'm thinking more of like the local the local news that plays for an hour, like from 5 to 6 or 6 to 7 or whatever, where they just talk about what's going on in your town and a bit of global and national news or whatever. So they'll like if there's a story that's in the news and it's shared on something like Facebook, Facebook blocks it out and says like the Canadian government said you can't read this. So it's an interesting approach. Um, so I'm not sure what they're trying to accomplish with this because I can post about the content of it and share it, and nobody can stop that from being talked about. Like I can talk about the news story. I just can't show, from what I can see, the clip from the actual news company. So here we have like CBC News. Like if CBC does a story about, I don't know, like an environmental spill from like an accident or something, and I like they have like a clip, and I have some talking head from the news departments down there saying, hey, the Ministry of the Environment is here cleaning up a spill. It's going to cost a lot of money, and the company that spilled is going to get charged for it, whatever. It's ABC company, not the real ABC company, just you know Company X is now doing this. There probably is a Company X. I mean, isn't that what Twitter is? Anyway, somebody spelled something and they'll show it, right? I was like, so I can't share that to someone else, but I can talk about the content. But if someone says, "Hey, there was a spill," and they talk about it back and forth on Facebook, I can then go Google it, and that will come up. But it's just important that Facebook doesn't play the video for me. It doesn't take me straight to it. It makes me wonder if we really have the right kind of attitude to sharing information and how much information control they're going to come up with. I don't mind when they actually label something. So if something's coming from like a not totally legit company, I appreciate that. I kind of appreciate the fact that they'll help differentiate and say, hey, this ad is not from a legitimate, well-established business with a bricks and mortar business of some sort. It doesn't have to be retail. I just mean like this company maybe just like sending garbage from overseas factories and just dropping them off at your door through some sort of weird scheme they have, and you're paying $50 for a $3 item, and these people are running a scam basically, right? Well, are we going to do the same thing with MLMs, right? Like we should, but I don't know if we do, right? Like are people really thinking about how trying to protect people from scammy behavior and bullshit behavior? And the reason I think about that a lot is because of how many scams there are out there. And I think maybe what Reggie was talking about ties into this is like There's so many companies out there that there are no warning labels on it that are selling people like get thin fast things. And January, which just passed, is the number one time for it because of like the New Year's resolution thing. It's like they just hammer it. They hammer and hammer and hammer. And so there's like the P90X. I think I was talking about that the other day, but when we decide what it is we're going to help protect people from, if the government is doing that for us, what really bugs me about it is why isn't it universal? Why isn't there a warning label at the front of every Bible that says, like, this may not be a historical fact. This may in fact be a work of fiction. Why isn't there like a little thing saying, like, use a little skepticism with this? When they're saying use a little skepticism with this company, but I don't see Amway having like skepticism labels on it. Right? I don't see like all of these things are basically pyramid schemes, and this DC person had me thinking about them again. I thought about them before because there's a huge there's a huge component of cult-like behavior, and I think all of you have known me for a while, so you know that I got into this by not into the obesity thing, but I got into that by being obese, but what I got into is like the idea that there's people trying to really spread misinformation through cult-like behavior. When I ended up interacting with people who were interacting with Scientology, but I also realized they were also interacting with other cult-like um, groups that were trying to sell people dreams that'll never come true. And Scientology certainly fits into that. Most religions fit into that in one way or another. I think there are some relatively benign religions, but we don't seem to come up against a lot of really benign people around here. When it comes to religion, when people are defending religion, it seems to be very, very much not benign. Sometimes it's banal, but it isn't benign. And the MLMs fit so nicely into that. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with Vice Rhino, also a Canadian, so I'll plug them for that. Vice Rhino is, I think, a pretty cool person. I don't know them personally, but they do some good content, and I think a couple of years ago they lost their wife, which is terrible. Really difficult thing to deal with. And every time I think about that, I sort of run through the scenario in my own life, and it's a man, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, a lot to handle, to lose people that are important in your life, people you love. So, but Vice Rhino did this great comparison, and I think it was he and his wife were in a cult like MLM thing. I forget what it was, but they traveled all over. They spent all sorts of money trying to make money, and he talked about how they were chasing money, chasing an opportunity. And fuck, that's messed up shit, right? And I see cute little evil blob critters. Yeah, so hopefully that's not directed at me. But no, I guess that's from the Doctor Who thing. So I'll have to check out some more Doctor Who. Um I've been rambling on here about some shitty stuff, but I'm gonna say MLMs, cults, religions. The Venn diagram is pretty close to a single circle. There's a lot of overlap in the approach, and one of the things I was going to talk about, and I'm going to look into this, and people can let me know if they care about this, is some of the other overlaps of where conspiracy theories and cults collide, because there's so many things I see from it's a lot of times it's the flat earth people push this, but I think it might overlap with some other things. So I saw this in comment section the other day on a flat earth debate. They were talking about how the entire concept of a school system was built to regiment and control people by I think it was the Rockefellers or something. I'm not sure if that's who it was. And it was one of the richer families from a long time ago. apparently invented the whole modern school system. And I remember someone debunking that too a little bit, and I don't think it's one of those things that has some truth to it, but there's also some not truth to it, and it's sort of one of those in the middle things. And I'm thinking about looking that up. So people be interested in me trying to cover it, even though I'm such a tangential person, so it's hard to watch in that regard. Maybe I could write a script for something. So yeah, I'd love to know if anyone wants to hear me do content where I actually script it out. Because I was thinking about that, instead of just talking, just shooting from the hip, maybe I should script something out and explain something to people. It might be a little bit more like my sphere, my big white ball videos. If people like those, I'd like to know if people like that. Um, but sometimes I just want to scream at the aether. So the non-existent aether is very, very good at listening to me. Yeah. So I've rambled a fucking lot here. So I'll probably wrap it up at that. But but I'm just gonna say this one guy in the flat earth thing the other day was just um yeah, that's it, Reggie. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, that sounds about right. So I don't think I watched it in 2020. I think I watched it a little after, but yeah, yeah, Vice Rhino had that. Yeah, definitely. He joined an MLM, and yeah, he talked about it like being very similar to being in the religion he was in prior to becoming sort of an anti-apologist, or I don't know, is that what you call it? He's a debunker of a lot of bullshit. He presents a lot of good science too. Um, anyway, I like his content. I haven't seen as much of it recently. I think it's the way the YouTube algorithm pushes stuff. It's hard to follow how YouTube works, and if you look it up, YouTube has a thing saying, "Don't try to figure out what we're doing. Just keep on doing what we tell you to do, but we're not going to tell you what to do." It's a very strange thing. When I read that online article about YouTube helping you understand how they do shit, it's like, don't try to understand anything. Uh, that either means they don't understand it, or they definitely don't want anyone to understand it. But you know, I'm gonna say to close out that it's rough living this life, but it's good too. I have lots of great things in my. I shouldn't complain, but I also feel like the things that have weighed me down and made my life difficult are worth pushing back against and changing. I think it's something that can and should be done, and I think it's true for all of us. The things that make our lives shitty are things we should work on changing. And if the shittiest thing in your life is not being able to treat other people like shit with impunity, you should probably get a different way of life, is my advice. Because that's the thing about when all these things intersect, the cults, the religions, the the way the greed of corporations works, the idea that corporations have to just keep doing better and better and better. I find that to be really weird. I've never understood this idea that you have to keep increasing your sales over and over and over again and just keep growing to be successful. Like I don't understand economics well enough to know why you have to do that. Like I understand you want to grow your base of customers and stuff. But if you had a company that had 10 people working at it and 10 people worked at it for 40 years and all earned a decent salary and had a pension and retired after that, and there was attrition during the period and people came and went, the company just kept on making a great product and selling it and developed it to keep up with the times and kept on making it and earning a decent living, and all the people that worked there and the owners all made a great decent living. Is there a problem with them not taking over the entire fucking world? And I think people in business school would tell you, yeah, that's fucking wrong. Just building a business to the point that it's sustainable and continuing to sustain it and earning a good living from it for decades isn't what business is about. Business is about growing to the point of toppling over and dying for some reason, or being gobbled up by something that grew up bigger. And I find that a really weird concept. And I think that type of concept of like the when I see the big mega church pastors like that just keep growing and growing and growing, and they have, by the time a church has a jet or two or five or a yacht, and the pastors are like superstars, there's something wrong. Same thing with cults, pseudo religions, MLM things. It all seems like pyramid scams that are selling things that you can never collect, you know. And so they have this thing, well, like, this company is I think they call it a drop ship marketing ploy. And I've fallen victim to one of them that I know of. And it's not a terrible, terrible product. It's an okay product, but I think it's overpriced and cost a lot of money to ship and stuff, which I think that was where it kind of pissed me off, is like it costs so much money to have it shipped. And I ended up losing the product too, which kind of sucked. But I think if we're gonna put warnings on some things, we should put warnings on everything. And maybe that's not possible. Maybe that just can't be done. Maybe I'm silly to bring that up as a concept. But I'm just gonna say that I love and appreciate the people that support me here. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that I have a great family. I have great friends here and a few in real life. And despite the fact that life is sometimes difficult and gets me down and makes it really hard for me to not break down, I am trying to encourage people to speak up and speak out. And if you can't, for whatever reason, talk to me. I'm on Discord. I'm trying to get into the Gather thing that Jay's doing. Pocket Locker. He was talking about that. He was on. I think it was Skeptic Haven. I listened into a bunch of that last night. And yeah, and if you want to hear me be a little bit more amusing than I am here, check out. Oh yeah, yeah, the Star Wars. Okay, yeah, yeah, I remember that. I've seen Neil 604 Atheist talk about that. That's a good point, Andrew. Um, so yeah, so I'm if there's something that you want to talk about and you want to come find me somewhere, I'm willing to talk. I don't have to talk into the YouTube aether. I can just talk to people. I can have conversations. And I also want to put out there that I'm willing to, if anybody in the community wants to do this, I'm willing to talk to people about their experiences living with obesity. So if you happen to live with obesity, or you have in the past, or if you have opinions that are contrary to mine, you want to tell me that I am a big fat piece of shit and that there's something wrong with me. I'm thinking I should open the door to that. Like, I people seem to enjoy discussions and interviews, and they also enjoy when people argue with each other about things. And arguing can be helpful in some instances. I think arguing about things that are established facts is kind of silly, but I'm a flat Earth junkie, so what do I have to say about that? I also want to say that I'm hoping to do some more science programming soon. Um, Maybe some more science and geometry. I have some ideas about that. And I'm also going to I'm looking hard into what I can do about becoming a more educated person, because I'm not very highly educated, but I think I've decided I have the intellect to become better educated. And if I get the chance to do that in the next few years, maybe in the next 5 years, my life might change in a way that I could do some of that in the background. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of excited about that. I've started talking about that, and I may have mentioned it in another video, but I'm thinking I want to study more about astrophysics, and learn more about it than the little bit I can learn from watching videos and reading articles and stuff. And I also want to educate myself more about the conditions that I live with and become an even better advocate by having better background information. So I'm going to work on those things. And I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to wrap it here, unless anybody wants to say anything or wants me to cover anything that I haven't. I know when I ramble, it's not necessarily a great thing for everybody, but um, If you've enjoyed this, lick and describe. If the description you're getting is of a phone that hasn't been wiped down in a while, then or your computer screen, just be careful. And if Doctor Tap is yeah, I'm gonna ask Doctor Tap about Magnus. So I was gonna say Doctor Tap, when he licks and describes, he's like he has to figure out which beverage he just spilt on his computer. Um, it's an interesting thing. I was actually once Doctor Tap and I were having a conversation, and he was in the middle of like trying to. I think he was washing. I want to say he was washing his keyboard in a sack of alcohol or something. I can't remember. He was explaining this all to me, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" And then I was like, "Oh man, a new keyboard must be less trouble." But yes, we're gonna see if Doctor Tap is magnetic and stick him to a fridge, maybe. Um, actually, I don't know if Doctor Tap is still my friend or not. We'll find out. He's trying to beat me at chess, which he's pretty good at doing. But yeah, I've actually asked Doctor Tap if he'd be willing to have a little discussion about some science topics that I'm interested in and that I think he has some good background knowledge in. So we'll see. He's been a busy guy. He's been on a lot of shows, and he was also going to be on Professor Park's show, and that got canceled sort of last minute and postponed to a different date. I was looking forward to that because I like watching Professor Parks. I like watching Doctor Tap. Doctor Tap always brings a lot of knowledge, as long as you don't bring up magnets. And actually, magnetic fields are pretty cool. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably too much trauma there for Dr. Tap to talk to me about magnets, but maybe I'll get somebody else to come talk to me about magnets. We'll talk about magnetic fields. One of the coolest things about magnetic fields is how they propagate, or not propagate. Maybe that's one of the words I'm looking for. I think I'm using the wrong word. Is that how they exist in three dimensions? So I think that's something that can sometimes be forgotten by the types of tests that are done when you study magnetism, like in like junior high or high school, middle school, whatever. Like when you do like those experiments with like iron filings on a piece of paper and a magnet and see how the fields are. The interesting thing to me about magnets is that that field exists below and above the magnet as well. When we talk about a bar magnet, and then electromagnetism is super cool. And yeah, there's a lot of really cool shit that goes on in the world. And I think I've decided that my most favorite thing is about photons. And so maybe Dr. Tap will talk to me. I'll ask him if he's interested in having a photon conversation. Do you guys shit it in Dapper's most recent premiere video? They mentioned, oh, the Van der Graaf generator. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that technically Vandy didn't make the Van der Graaf generator. That was his grandfather, but yeah. I did watch a premiere from Dapper the other day, but I was trucking at the time, so I don't think I had a chance to listen to the whole thing start to finish. I might have missed that part, but yeah, I'm sure Vandy's he's in a room somewhere cleaning a keyboard and trying to get the chocolate milk out of it or something. And yeah, I hope he's having a good day. He might be down in the physics lab shooting atoms, or he might be learning about relativity. I don't fucking know what he does with his spare time, really. Sometimes he talks to me in his spare time, which is fun. I have a good time chatting with him. But he might be playing a video game. He might be learning something. He does like shooting atoms with a laser. And Dr. Tap is proud of. Yes, he is proud of that. Yeah, no, and he should be. He should be. I'm not sure that I'm not necessarily not proud of my grandfathers, but I don't think they have famous names in that regard. Um, but yeah, I think what's important is that we call out what's bullshit and push forward what isn't. And I think we have to call out when people say something that is technically correct but um not well contextualized. And that was one of the things I saw this morning that encouraged me to. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't off work today for, letting my arm heal up and stuff from this weird spilling of blood in my arm that hurts like hell. It's just absolutely insane, but it's finally subsided to the point I'm not like feeling like I'm going to throw up some of the time. But yeah, so I'll wrap it all up here. I think I'm almost at the 2 hour mark, and I don't know why anybody. Well, nobody was here when I started, so if you missed the start, don't go back and listen to it because I was just. It's just more of the same. It's me talking. But I am gonna drop some cool sound bites here and there. I'm gonna do some more videos, and if people are following me on YouTube and have things they want me to look at, I can do that. Um, I also I also think I've managed to do this without talking about motorcycles or trucks. So just throwing them in there at the end, motorcycles and trucks, they're the two best things in the world. If you're perambulating yourself or anything around, those are the best ways to do it. Um, I I'm looking forward to get my motorcycle out again. Need temperature to get a little bit warmer. It would be cool to ride in February. It's sunny enough today here to ride, but I don't want to ride my bike through a bunch of salt and slush and stuff like that. So um I appreciate everybody that does support me. I'm at 65 members now, or not members. What do you call it? Subscribers. 65 subs. Which, if I was in Navy, I'd be very proud of. And as a YouTuber, I don't know if I'm technically a YouTuber with 65 subs, but that would be an impressive Navy. I'm just really happy that people enjoy anything I do and want to be part of a discussion about things that need to change. And yeah, this is a video where I kind of lost my cool emotionally. It was kind of the point of my video at the beginning, was to talk about how men are told to behave and carry on a certain way, and that isn't what I want to do. I want to do the right thing. Need to rip the engine apart, replace all the seals. Oh, Reggie, you got to do that. And Reggie, I don't know where the hell you are, Reggie, but if you're ever near me or I'm ever near you, let's go for a ride. I wanna I wanna get out there and go for a rip around. Um, yeah, it could be a bit of work to tear down a motorcycle engine, but it's less work than it is to tear down a 15-liter Detroit, as far as I know. So you can thank that. It's cheaper than tearing down a 15-liter Detroit. I mean, it can cost like 30-40 grand to rebuild a semi truck motor. So the engines are really wild. Anyway, that would take. I would go on a tangent like so big. Anyway, I did promise some poetic conversation about the globe Earth and going on tangents. And so here's what I'm going to say. Every movement you make on Earth is a series of constantly changing tangents that we call curves. And that's kind of cool. So no matter where I go, no matter where you go, you're always on a tangent. And that's a cool thing about geometry. Spherical geometry is really cool. And I didn't know that people denied the existence of spherical geometry until somewhat recently. Do not watch Bev try thinking, because he does not try thinking. But if you ever get over to Bev's channel, fuck those people. I somehow ended up being gifted a membership, and so I've been getting like some of his extra content like in my YouTube feed. I'm like, holy fuck. And I tried to watch it. It's just it scrambles the brain, because you're like, what is this guy on about? And I've never seen anyone who's so in denial about how the world works, especially when it comes to anything that curves, talk in circles that just are. I don't know. I don't know if he's talking. I guess if he's talking in circles during a fucking tornado, because he changes his tack so quickly and so ridiculously. It's got to be some sort of a ploy, but it also could be like some sort of strange mental defect that needs medical attention. I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying that, Bev, if you're reading this and you believe you can find a doctor to have a look at what's going on with the disconnect you have with reality when you speak in circles, like why like I you're you're just an amazingly reliable contrarian. um I think, and again, this will sound like an insult, but I think if you could harness the power of your ability to just bat back everything someone says with a no, that's not right. um you could actually like power a small city, because it just you're I don't know, maybe you should just play tennis, because you're constantly just batting things back at people. That seems to be all you can do. And yeah, it's very hard to follow you, Bev. I don't like why like you keep posting your videos on Slim's Discord, and fuck, like I've tried, Bev. I've tried, and it's ridiculous. And I don't know how you have people in there agreeing with you, because even when they agree with you, you just you disagree with them agreeing with you. It's wild, just wild. And the flat Earth thing, and I know Bev says they're not a flat earther, but they are a flat earther. They're just unwilling to. They're unwilling to cop to anything. Um, I don't know where this mindset comes from. And there is a warning sign on Bev's channel, so there is that. And there's a warning sign on a battery that says not to drink the acid. And there's there's a warning sign on a lot of things. Um, but yeah, was the band Tesla used to sing about the signs? A few different bands sang that song, I think. Anyway, there's a lot of signs out there. Sign everywhere, a sign. Sometimes there's a sine wave. Sometimes it's a stop sign. And sometimes it's a sign of insanity. So thanks, everyone. I've had as many as 5 people watching at once, which is amazing. Or maybe more, I don't know. I don't know how many people were lurking. I don't know how many people are commenting. Well, I know who is commenting, but I don't know how many people wanted to comment but couldn't. That's often me. If I'm on the road, I'm listening, but I'm not commenting. Or if I pull up to stoplight, I'll say, "Hey, I'm here." I actually say hell, because hell to this, hell to that, hell to you and me. All right, thanks, everyone. If you're still here, um, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Go find a good streamer who's doing something fun and intelligent, and I'll see you all later.